Hello and welcome to Blythe Ray Business News. Today I'm joined by Sean Wade, who's Chief Executive of Power Metal Resources. Power Metal Resources listed on the AIM market in London, a symbol of POW, and a market capitalisation of around £21 million sterling. The company has a portfolio of assets, which includes, what we're going to talk about today, some very interesting uranium in Canada. Sean, welcome back on this show. You've just put an announcement out. Can we start by just telling us about the recent announcement, the strategic financing, and what that means for the company?
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for having me, Tim. It's lovely to see you again. It's a really exciting announcement for Power Metal. It's a big game changer, I think, for us. As I think people will know, we have around about 1,000 square kilometres of licenses in the Athabasca Basin in Saskatchewan in Canada, which is probably the world's #1 address for uranium exploration. There's fantastic prospectivity, and we've already done a lot of work on the license areas, which obviously we've reported, and which has got some really great progress towards getting some drill targets. Now, what we've announced is the intention to form a strategic joint venture with a major natural resources investor, strategic investor, globally significant, ACAM, who I think people might know from previous deals they've done with Amarok Minerals, for example, who are very experienced, as I say, and are very excited about uranium in general and the exploration opportunity that this portfolio represents. So the deal we've announced really is in two parts. The first part is a strategic financing whereby ACAM will take £2 million worth of loan notes issued by Power Metal with some attaching warrants. That partly helps us with the costs of the IPO that we were originally proposing. We can talk a little bit more about why this is preferable to that. And the second part, which is being worked on at the moment, is essentially at the moment an 8-week exclusivity period through which we're going to do some due diligence, or rather they're going to do due diligence, and where we're going to propose to form this joint venture to explore the entire Athabasca license area that we own. So all of the properties will go into this vehicle via our Power Canada subsidiary. Now, ACAM are proposing to invest £10 million into the joint venture. And what this does effectively for us is it values our portfolio, what's going into the JV, also at 10 million. Now, the way this is going to break down, if the deal completes, which obviously we can't guarantee at this point, is that ACAM will own 70%, we will own 30%. So people will work out that, okay, if it's a 20 million, post that money, that means your part, Power's part, is worth 6, and that's quite right. So the remaining 4 million will come to us if certain milestones are met, certain conditions are met, 4 million in cash a little bit later on in the process. So in overall terms, this is a fantastic deal for Power Metal shareholders. It substantially enhances our balance sheet and crystallizes a tremendous amount of value in this very, very exciting portfolio. So we're really, really pleased to announce. It's been a lot of work, and I'm very conscious that a lot of our shareholders have been wondering, what are we up to? And, we haven't had some big news for a little while. Obviously, we've been working very hard on getting this to this point, and we're very much hoping that over the coming weeks, we will execute that joint venture and we'll announce an update to shareholders that the work is getting started and everything is underway on the asset.
Okay, so hopefully you've got a fantastic, big-scale investment partner coming in. You've told us that you're in the right location in Canada. You've told us it's uranium. Let's talk about uranium. Why is it important for the future of the energy market and energy transition?
Well, uranium really is absolutely at the heart of the whole sort of net zero transition. It's obviously, nuclear power is a carbon-free electricity generation, and it's extremely important component of that. And we've seen what's happened to the uranium price over the last few months. It's currently trading, I think it's at around $90 a pound on the spot market, which is substantially higher than it was when we started staking this portfolio. When Paul Johnson, my predecessor, started staking this set of assets, it was around about sort of $30 a pound. So that's partly where some of the value enhancement has come from. But if you look at other factors like the growth in AI, for example, the data providers here are very keen, quite understandably, AI requires a lot of power, in the way that, for example, cryptocurrencies do as well. But there's a big insistence that must be carbon free, and that's obviously quite right and understandable. Now, where is that going to come from? Clearly, there are lots of elements of the energy mix which are renewable and so on, but nuclear really is at the heart of that transition to carbon free energy. So it's a lot of factors. It's powering the electricity grid. It's these new developments like AI, but the demand for power, the demand shock, if you like, that the electricity market is going to go through and is going through over the next few years will require a big input from nuclear. And for that, obviously, you need uranium and you need more discoveries. You need to find more assets. It's like in any commodity markets. I mean, copper's another very good example. If we want to decarbonize the global economy, we're going to need a lot more copper. So, uranium is right in that mix, which is why we invested so heavily in it. And obviously why we're very pleased to be able to take it to the next stage and hopefully make some significant commercial discoveries in that license area and the enhanced value that will create for our shareholders.
Okay, so good news announced this week on the uranium front, but as we know, Power Metal Resources has a portfolio of assets. Let's just look to the coming months. Is there anything that viewers, shareholders, potential shareholders should be looking out for in the coming months? What's the potential headlines?
Well, absolutely. Look, I mean, as with any sort of portfolio business of this kind, there's actions happening across the multiple fronts. We have obviously some assets that we currently own 100% or close to 100%, which are some of our African assets. Malopo Farms, for example, is at 87% owned, where we're awaiting some assay results from a recent drill program. Tati, which is our gold asset, also in Botswana. We've got some exciting potential coming up there. We're going to look forward to updating the market on our next steps for that asset. Power Arabia, which I think we've maybe talked a little bit about in the past, which is our efforts in the Arabian Gulf, where we're already on the ground getting started on some projects. In fact, my colleagues, I think, are over there at the moment. There's some more going out this week, undertaking field work on some lithium licenses. So we're looking forward to generating some great news there. And obviously the portfolio companies are doing extremely well. You'll know that Golden Metal Resources, for example, where we own around 50%, is going absolutely fantastically. The share price is going up. There's a tremendous amount of good news coming out there, not just from the main flagship tungsten asset, but also from the other polymetallic assets that are under Golden Metal as well. So generating a lot of news, a lot of excitement, and a lot of value for our shareholders. I mean, the market cap of Golden Metal is around 24 million. We own 50%. That goes straight, that should go straight into people's sum of the parts calculations for Power Metal. So we're very keen to highlight the value in the portfolio, really, and that's what I think a lot of our news flow is going to be really focusing on. When we talk about the company, we're going to talk about these are the individual components. You can add up the different values and come to a figure which I think, it's not my job to tell people that the share price is high or low or whatever, but, I think a lot of people will conclude that the shares are pretty undervalued when you look at the value that is in those component parts. So that's partly why this deal is so important, because it crystallizes, a big chunk of value for us. And as I say, going forward, there's a lot more. The other thing I should mention is our acquisition of GSA Environmental. That's now fully integrated in the company, so we own 75% of that. There's a lot of work going on there to bring forward some new contracts, and we're going to be talking a lot more about that when those come through. But the intention is that's going to be a very serious revenue generator for Power, and it's a very important part of my job to, as much as I can, reduce our dependence on dilutive equity raises in the capital markets. These markets are tough. They've been tough for a while, and there's no reason why to suggest they're not going to remain tough. So the more we can generate value, the more we can generate cash ourselves without having to go to the market, the better for shareholders. And that's really what we hope the GSA is going to do for us. So lots of news coming there. And the other thing to mention, of course, is First Development Resources, where we're undertaking a listing process at the moment. We look forward to being able to update on that. It's a great collection of assets in Australia, Western Australia and Northern Territory. So we're looking forward to reporting on that. So we have been quiet for a few weeks, and I know that's been frustrating for people. It's been frustrating for us as well, but that's going to change, and I think we're going to have a really busy summer. So I'm sure I'll be back here again talking to you about some of those things.
I'm sure you will too. Sean, congratulations on this week's news on the uranium front, and please do come back and keep us updated. That was Sean Wade, Chief Executive of Power Metal Resources, talking about this week's announcement about the major investor, hopefully, in their uranium assets in Canada. That's it for this edition of Blythe Ray Business News. Thanks for watching.